There is a building on Moffett Boulevard in Mountain View, California. It is not a tech campus. It is not a venture capital office. It is the former site of the North County Social Services Office, the place where people who had nothing went to collect food stamps. In the winter of 1992, a 16-year-old boy stood in that building with his mother. They had arrived in the United States a few months earlier from Ukraine. They did not speak much English. They did not have much money, and the building on Moffett Boulevard was where they went to get help buying food. And 22 years later, that boy walked back to the same building. He was not there for food stamps. He was there to sign a piece of paper. The piece of paper said $19 billion. This is the story of Koum. He was born on the 24th of February, 1976, in a small village called Fastiv, outside Kiev, in what was then the Soviet Union. His family was Jewish, which in that country at that time was not a description, it was a problem. His mother, Nina, understood that the state was not safe for her son, and that the direction of things in Ukraine after the Soviet collapse was not going to make it safer. The house had no hot water. The walls were thin. And everywhere, always, was the knowledge that someone might be listening. He has spoken since about what it was like to grow up in a society where everything was, in his words, eavesdropped on, recorded, and snitched on, where a conversation in the wrong room with the wrong person could produce consequences that arrived without warning. Remember that. It is about to become the most expensive design decision in the history of software. In 1992, when he was 16, his mother took him and his grandmother and left. They landed in Mountain View, California, a small city at the south end of the San Francisco Bay Area. The American government provided a 2-bedroom apartment through its refugee assistance program. His mother found work as a babysitter. He found work sweeping the floor of a grocery store, and once a month they walked to a building on Moffett Boulevard to collect food stamps. His father stayed behind in Ukraine. He never made the trip. He died there in 1997. The boy did not speak English well. He did not know anyone. And the country he had landed in was, at that exact moment, assembling the largest technology industry in human history, roughly 4 miles from where he was sweeping a floor. He wanted to learn how computers worked, not casually, urgently. He went to a used bookstore and bought manuals on computer networking. When he finished reading them, he returned them. Not because he was done with the knowledge, because he could not afford to keep the books. That detail deserves a second look. He was teaching himself the architecture of the internet from borrowed materials he was returning to a thrift store in order to eat that week. He was good enough at it that he found his way into an online group called W00W00, a distributed network of young hackers and security researchers spread across the world. The group included, among others, a teenager named Sean Fanning, who would go on to create Napster. He enrolled at San Jose State University. He did not finish. What he did instead was get hired by Ernst Young as a security tester, a person companies pay to try to break into their own systems. And at Ernst Young, in 1997, he met a man named Brian Acton. Acton was already at Yahoo. He got Koum in. Both of them joined the infrastructure team, the people who kept the servers running and the network secure. They worked there for 9 years. 9 years is a long time to sit inside a company and watch it make decisions you disagree with. And the decision they disagreed with most was advertising. At Yahoo sold ads. It collected user data to sell better ads. It built profiles on its users in order to sell access to their attention. And Koum, the boy from Fastiv who had grown up in a country where surveillance was the default setting of daily life, watched that system from the inside and came to a conclusion about it. He believed that interrupting a private conversation between two people in order to show them a product they did not ask for was fundamentally wrong, not commercially questionable, morally wrong. He has said since that his years at Yahoo taught him exactly what kind of company he did not want to build. In 2007, both men left. They took a year off, they travelled, and when they came back, they started looking for work. In 2009, Koum applied for an engineering job at Facebook. He was rejected. Brian Acton applied to Facebook as well. He was also rejected. Acton then applied to Twitter. Also rejected. He posted about it publicly. His exact words on Twitter itself were, "Facebook turned me down." It was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people, looking forward to life's next adventure. And then, separately, got denied by Twitter, HQ, that is okay. Would have been a long commute. 2 men. two of the largest technology companies on Earth. 4 rejections between them. Now hold this, because the next adventure that Brian Acton was looking forward to is about to become the most expensive thing Facebook ever bought. In January 2009, Jan Koum bought an iPhone. He looked at the App Store, which Apple had launched the previous summer, and saw something that the executives at Facebook and Twitter had not seen in him. He saw that the phone already knew who your contacts were. He saw that it could push a notification to your screen without you opening the app. And he saw that the entire planet was about to have one of these devices in its pocket. On the 24th of February 2009, his 33rd birthday, he incorporated WhatsApp Inc. The name was a play on the phrase, "What is up?" The product was simpler than anything Silicon Valley was building at the time. It was a way to send a message to another person. No ads, no games, no gimmicks. That phrase was not a slogan. It was written on a piece of paper and taped to his desk. Brian Acton put it there. To understand why Koum built WhatsApp the way he did, go back to Fastiv. A boy grows up in a country where the state reads your mail, listens to your calls, and keeps files on what you say in private. He arrives in a new country and watches a corporation do something structurally similar, collecting what people say and do online in order to sell access to their attention. He decided that his product would not do either of those things. WhatsApp did not ask for your name. It did not ask for your birthday. It did not store your messages on a server after delivery. It did not show you advertisements. It did not sell your data to anyone. It cost $1 a year. Every venture capitalist in Silicon Valley told him that was not a business model. A messaging app that charges $1 and collects no data is a hobby, not a company. Koum did not care. By his own account, he was not building a business. He was building the thing he had wanted as a child in Ukraine, a way to talk to someone privately, without anyone else in the room. And then the numbers arrived. By October 2010, WhatsApp had 10 million active users. By December 2011, 50 million. By October 2012, 100 million. No marketing budget, no advertising campaign, no growth team, no referral bonuses, no viral loops engineered into the product. People downloaded it because someone they knew sent them a message on it. In 2011, Sequoia Capital invested $8 million. It was the only outside money the company had taken. 2 years later, Sequoia put in another $50 million, at a valuation that had multiplied beyond anything the original term sheet imagined. By December 2013, 400 million people were using WhatsApp every month. By the time of the acquisition announcement 2 months later, 450 million. One app, 2 founders, 55 employees, 450 million users. On the 19th of February 2014, Facebook announced that it was acquiring WhatsApp. The price was $19 billion, $4 billion in cash, roughly $12 billion in Facebook stock, $3 billion in restricted stock units for the founders and employees. It was the largest acquisition of a venture-backed company in history. It was more than Facebook had paid for Instagram. It was more than Google had paid for YouTube. It was, at the time, larger than the annual education budgets of most countries on Earth. The man who had been rejected for a job at Facebook had just sold his company to Facebook for a price that Facebook itself could barely afford. And Brian Acton, the man who had tweeted about being turned down by both Facebook and Twitter, walked away from the deal with roughly $3 billion. The rejections had not been a setback. They had been the starting gun. Here is the detail that makes this story land. When it came time to sign the acquisition papers, Jan Koum did not go to Facebook headquarters. He did not go to a law office. He did not go to a conference room with a view of the bay. He went to the building on Moffett Boulevard, the old North County Social Services office. The place where 22 years earlier, a 16-year-old immigrant and his mother had stood in line to collect food stamps so they could eat that week. The building was closed by then, but Koum walked up to the front door, placed the acquisition agreement against it, and signed a $19 billion deal on the door of the welfare office where he had once been poor enough to need help buying food. He then took a photograph of the signed document and sent it to Forbes magazine. He sent it on WhatsApp. His mother, Nina, had died of cancer in the year 2000. She never saw WhatsApp. She never saw the money. She never saw her son walk back to the door of the building where they had stood in line together. She had worked as a babysitter and watched other people's children so that her son could have a chance in a country where she herself would never be comfortable. Koum has rarely spoken about this publicly, but it is the piece of the story that the $19 billion headline does not contain. The person who brought him to the country where the whole thing became possible did not live long enough to see any of it happen. Koum stayed at Facebook for 4 years after the acquisition. He sat on the board of directors. In 2018, he left. The reason, reported widely and never denied, was a disagreement about privacy. Facebook wanted to use WhatsApp user data to improve ad targeting across its platforms. Koum believed that doing so would violate the promise he had made to every person who had ever downloaded the app. The boy from Fastiv, who had built a product specifically because he did not want anyone listening in, walked away from Facebook rather than let them listen in. He left roughly $400 million in unvested stock on the table. The note was still on the desk. No ads, no games, no gimmicks. Go back to Moffett Boulevard. The building is still there. It is no longer a social services office. It does not hand out food stamps anymore. But on one of its doors in February of 2014, a man who had arrived in this country with nothing signed a piece of paper worth more than most people will see in 1,000 lifetimes. He chose that door on purpose. Not because it was convenient, because it was the only place in the world where the distance between what he had been and what he had become could be measured in a single gesture. 2 billion people now use WhatsApp. That is more than a quarter of every human being alive. Most of them do not know who Jan Koum is. They do not know about Fastiv, or the food stamps, or the used bookstore, or the 4 rejections, or the mother who did not live to see any of it. They just open the app and talk to someone they love. That is exactly what he wanted. If you got something out of this, subscribe. Every episode we tell the full untold story behind the world's most extraordinary rises, from the very bottom to the very top. Next time, we go to a place most people never leave, a neighbourhood so dangerous that the police gave it a number instead of a name, a boy who grew up there, who failed at every conventional path out, and who built a business empire worth more than $6 billion by selling something that nobody in his world believed could be sold. I will see you in the next one.